My father stepped between me and the church doors with my sister's white veil still in his hand. And in front of everyone, he told the coordinator to remove my name from the family seating chart. "You're not invited, Emma," he said, loud enough for the groom's parents, two bridesmaids, my aunt, the photographer, and the flower girl to hear. "After everything we've done to make this day look respectable, I won't let you stand there and remind people what this family came from." The lobby went quiet in that polished, expensive way rich places get quiet. The groom's mother looked down at her pearls. One bridesmaid stopped fixing Lily's train. My aunt pressed her lips together and turned toward a stained glass window as if she had suddenly discovered religion. The photographer lowered his camera. Even the little flower girl looked at me with her basket frozen against her stomach. I had steamed the veil that morning. I had picked up the flowers when the florist's van broke down. I had paid the first deposit on the church hall when my father said his account was temporarily tight, and I had spent the last 6 months swallowing every small insult because my sister had once held my hand at our mother's funeral and whispered that I was all she had left. So I looked at my father, then at Lily standing behind him in her perfect lace dress, and I said quietly, "If this is what you want, don't ask me later to pretend I was family." His jaw tightened. "Don't be dramatic." I slid my phone back into my purse without opening the email that had just arrived from the venue office. I had seen enough of the subject line. Final balance approval required. The coordinator's clipboard still had my name printed under responsible party. My father did not notice. Men like him rarely read the small print when they believe a daughter will keep paying to be loved. Lily's face flushed, but she didn't step around him. She looked at me with the careful pity people use when they have already chosen comfort over truth. Please don't make this about you. It's one day." One day. That was what she called it. Not the morning I had taken off work to drive her to fittings because Dad said he was busy. Not the nights I had compared vendor contracts after 12-hour shifts. Not the envelope of cash I had slipped to the seamstress when Lily cried because alterations cost more than she expected. Just one day. One day I was supposed to disappear from, after making sure it did not fall apart. The groom, Caleb, shifted beside her, uncomfortable but silent. His father cleared his throat and examined the program. My stepmother, Monica, touched Dad's sleeve and whispered, "Russell, people are watching." Dad smiled then, because image mattered more to him than cruelty. He reached for the door as if he were doing me a favor by ending the scene. "Go home, Emma. We don't need your help anymore." I nodded once. "Then you should make sure that's true." He laughed under his breath. Always with the threats. I left before the tears came. I would not give them a picture of me breaking in the church lobby. Outside, the late afternoon sun flashed off the parked cars. The white bows on the chapel railings. The rented black sedan waiting to take my father and sister to the reception. I sat in my old Honda for a full minute, both hands on the steering wheel, listening to the muffled sound of music starting inside. Then my phone vibrated again. This time it was the hotel events manager. "Emma, just confirming that any final charge or cancellation must be approved by you. We have you as the only authorized signer for the wedding block and reception balance." I read it twice. Then I turned off my phone, set it face down on the passenger seat, and drove away. I did not go home first. I drove to the community clinic on Parker Avenue, where the blood donor center sat between a pharmacy and a laundromat. The place smelled like antiseptic, coffee, and old magazines. I had an appointment that afternoon. One I had made weeks before because Lily and I shared the same rare blood type and the center had asked regular donors to come in before the holiday shortage. The nurse at the desk recognized me. "Emma Hart. You made it. Big family day, isn't it?" I almost laughed. Something like that. She looked up from her screen, saw my face, and softened. "You can reschedule if you need to." I rolled up my sleeve. "No. I came to give because I chose to." That was the first line I drew, though no one in my family saw it. I was not refusing kindness. I was refusing ownership. My father had always treated my usefulness as proof of my place. When Mom died, I was 22 and Lily was 14. Dad fell apart in public, and recovered in private. He cried at the funeral, accepted casseroles, and let neighbors praise him as a devoted widower. At home, he put bills on the kitchen table and told me, "You're the steady one. Your sister needs a normal life." A normal life meant Lily kept dance lessons, prom dresses, college tours, and birthday dinners. My life became double shifts, bank calls, insurance forms, and the quiet work nobody photographed. I told myself it was love. I told myself every family has a person who absorbs the impact so the others can keep smiling. Years later, when Dad married Monica, she noticed the arrangement in a week. She did not try to change it. She simply decorated it. Emma is so practical. She would tell guests while handing me coats to hang. Lily is more delicate. Some children need protecting. I let it pass because Lily was younger. Because Dad was tired. Because our mother had asked me to watch over them. But the wedding changed something. It was not just that they banned me. It was that they waited until the last possible moment, after the checks cleared, after the flowers arrived, after the guests had seen enough to believe I was the problem if I reacted. That night, I turned my phone on at my kitchen table. There were 11 missed calls from Monica, and one text from Dad. "Don't embarrass us tomorrow. Stay away and let Lily have peace." Below that, from Lily, sent an hour later. "I know you're hurt, but Dad is under pressure. Please don't punish me by touching the reservations." That was how I learned they knew exactly what I controlled. I sat with the phone glowing in the dark, the refrigerator humming behind me. My apartment was small, but every bill in it had my name on it. No one could stand in my doorway and erase me from a list I had paid for. I opened the venue email, read the payment schedule, the room block, the after-wedding brunch, the transportation hold, and the private suite reserved under my card for Lily and Caleb's send-off photographs. Then I did something my father had never expected from me. I did nothing. I did not cancel the wedding. I did not freeze the card. I did not call the church and tell them the truth. Lily still got her flowers, her music, her glass tower of champagne, her white cake with sugar magnolias. I let the day happen because I had not paid for the wedding to buy a seat. I had paid for it because, at some point, I had loved my sister more than I respected myself. But I saved every message. The wedding photos appeared online before midnight. I did not have to look for them. Monica tagged half the county. There was Dad walking Lily down the aisle. Dad lifting a toast. Dad standing in the center of a family portrait with Monica on one side and Lily on the other, the space where I should have stood filled by a tall arrangement of white roses. The caption under Monica's post said, "A perfect day with the family that showed up with love." By morning, the story had already been repaired without me. Relatives wrote, "Beautiful, so elegant, your mother would be proud." Aunt Denise commented, "So glad there was no drama." A cousin liked the photo where my father held Lily's hand and cried. People who had watched him send me away now praised the peace he had created. I made coffee and went to work. At noon, Lily texted me a picture of her bouquet on the hotel balcony. "I hope one day you understand why Dad needed things calm." I stared at the word needed. Then I put the phone away and finished my shift. The first visible crack came that evening, after the brunch. I was at the grocery store choosing tomatoes when my phone rang. It was Mrs. Klein, the hotel events manager. Her voice was polite but strained. "Emma, I'm sorry to bother you. We have Mr. Hart at the front desk, asking to extend the family room block and transfer incidentals to the same card. He says he has your permission." I looked at the tomatoes in my hand. One red, one bruised. "He doesn't." There was a pause. "Understood. The original event charges are covered as approved. But anything new would require your authorization. Then no new charges." Another pause. Softer this time. "I thought so. I just needed to hear it from you." In the background, I heard my father's voice, sharp and embarrassed. "Tell her it's for family." Mrs. Klein did not repeat it. She simply said, "Thank you, Emma," and hung up. I stood in the produce aisle with my hand around a tomato and felt something inside me settle into place. Not revenge. Not yet. Something cleaner. A door closing with no slam. The next morning, Caleb's mother called me. I almost did not answer, but curiosity won. Emma, she said, careful and formal. This is Margaret Reeves. I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to ask whether you intended to attend the family dinner tonight. Russell mentioned you had chosen not to come to the wedding, but something about that did not feel right. There it was. The repair had worked on some people, but not all. I didn't choose not to come, I said. My father told me at the church doors that I wasn't invited. Silence stretched on the line. Then Margaret exhaled. In front of people? Yes. And you were the one who paid the venue deposits? I looked out my office window at the parking lot, where rain had begun to darken the asphalt. Yes. She did not apologize for him. That made me respect her. I see. Thank you for telling me. By then, my father had started his second story. The first story was that I had made the wedding tense by being sensitive. The second was that I had tried to control Lily with money. Monica posted a softer version online. Sometimes love means setting boundaries with people who make important days about themselves. We are praying for healing. Under it, my aunt wrote, some people only help so they can hold it over you. I took screenshots. Not because I wanted to fight strangers online. Because people who rewrite pain in public should not be surprised when the original draft survives. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. It was one of Lily's bridesmaids, Hannah. You don't know me well, but I was in the lobby. What your dad said was awful. Also, I overheard Monica before the ceremony. She said, as long as Emma's card clears, she can cry at home. I thought you should know. Attached was a photo of the seating chart before my name was removed. Emma Hart, front row family. My name had been crossed out in black marker. Under it, in my father's handwriting, someone had written, not attending. That became the image I could not stop seeing. Not the dress. Not the flowers. My name crossed out by a hand I had fed. Driven, protected, and forgiven. I saved the photo beside the text messages. 3 simple things now held the whole truth. My father's message telling me to stay away. The photo of my crossed-out seat, and the reservation record with my name as the person who had carried the cost. Nothing complicated. Nothing a room full of relatives could pretend not to understand. On Monday morning, 2 days after the wedding, my father called at 6:12 a.m. I was brushing my teeth. His name lit up my phone again and again, until the buzzing sounded less like a call and more like a warning. I answered on the 5th ring. Where are you? He demanded. No hello. No apology. Just ownership. At home. Lily's at Mercy General. There was an accident on the interstate. Caleb's bruised, but Lily lost blood. They need donors tested. You and Lily have the same type. Get here now. My hand tightened around the sink. The room narrowed to the mirror, my face, and the white foam at the corner of my mouth. Is she awake? No. She's in surgery prep. Emma, listen to me. This is not the time for your wounded feelings. You need to donate blood to your sister. There it was. 2 days after he erased me from the family row, he needed the body attached to the name he crossed out. I'll come to the hospital, I said. I'll speak to the doctor. You will do what they ask. I rinsed my mouth slowly. I will do what I choose. He made a sound of disbelief. My God, Emma. She could die and you're still making a point? I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were dry. That surprised me. No. I'm making sure you understand the difference between help and control. Mercy General's waiting room was full of wedding clothes that had no business under fluorescent hospital lights. Bridesmaids sat in wrinkled satin. Caleb had a bandage across his forehead and dried blood on his collar. Monica stood near the coffee machine with her makeup smeared under one eye. Dad paced in his tuxedo pants and loosened bow tie, gripping his phone like it was a weapon. When I walked in, every face turned. Some with relief, some with shame. Aunt Denise looked at the floor. Margaret Reeves stood at once. Dad crossed the room before I reached the nurse's station. Finally. Come on. They need you downstairs. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. Not dramatically. Just enough that his hand closed on air. The room saw it. Don't, I said. His face reddened. Don't start this here. A nurse behind the desk looked up. Caleb's mother moved closer. Monica whispered, Russell, lower your voice. Dad ignored her. Your sister needs blood. You don't get to punish her because you weren't invited to a party. A party. He said it in front of the same relatives who had praised the wedding as sacred, perfect, once in a lifetime. When it excluded me, it was one day. When he needed me, it became family duty. When he had to defend what he had done, it shrank into a party. I kept my voice level. I came because Lily is my sister. I did not come because you summoned me. A doctor entered through the automatic doors with a tablet in his hand. Emma Hart? Yes. I'm Dr. Patel. We can talk privately. Dad stepped between us. I'm her father. You can talk here. She's compatible with Lily. She donated before. She'll do it again. Dr. Patel looked at him, then at me. No one donates under pressure. Miss Hart has to consent herself. The sentence was simple. It landed harder than a speech. Margaret's eyes shifted to my father. Caleb lowered his head. Aunt Denise stopped pretending to read a pamphlet. Dad forced a laugh. Of course she consents. She's just upset. I can answer for myself, I said. For the first time since I entered. Dad looked uncertain. Only for a second. Then he recovered with anger. Emma, if you refuse, everyone in this room will know what kind of person you are. I opened my purse, took out my phone, and set it face up on the small table beside the waiting room chairs. I did not unlock it yet. I only let the room see my hand was steady. I am going to answer the doctor, I said. Not you. And while they prepare what they need from me, the lies about the wedding stop here. Monica inhaled sharply. This is emotional blackmail. I looked at her. No. Emotional blackmail is letting someone carry the cost of a family wedding, crossing her name off the front row, and then telling everyone she abandoned her sister. The waiting room changed. It was not loud. It was worse than loud. It was the slow silence that arrives when people begin replaying what they saw and realizing the polite version no longer fits. Dad pointed at me. She's twisting this. She tried to control the wedding with money. Before I could answer, my phone lit up. Mrs. Klein, the hotel events manager. I answered on speaker because every person in that waiting room had been invited into my humiliation without my consent. They could hear the practical part too. Emma, Mrs. Klein said, careful and professional. I'm sorry to disturb you. Mr. Hart is on the emergency event line requesting that we reopen the wedding account for a private recovery suite, family meal service, airport transport, and a 2-night extension on the room block. He says you approved it verbally. Dad's mouth opened. I did not, I said. Understood. Then no new charges will be added. For clarity, the wedding file lists Emma Hart as the sole financial sponsor, sole authorized signer, and final approving party. Russell Hart is listed only as a family contact. He has no authority to charge, extend, transfer, or dispute anything under your name. The words did what anger could not. They stripped the suit off my father's image in front of the room. Margaret Reeves took one step closer. Sole financial sponsor? Yes, ma'am, Mrs. Klein said. The ballroom deposit, church hall balance, floral hold, transportation guarantee, room block, and bridal suite authorization were all under Mrs. Quimes' Hart's approval. The final receipt was sent to her email because the event was financially carried by her account. Caleb closed his eyes. Aunt Denise whispered, Oh, Russell. Dad snapped, Hang up the phone. This is not the time. This is exactly the time, Margaret said. Mrs. Klein continued, softer now. There is one more issue, Emma. Mr. Hart attempted to dispute the final event statement this morning and told our desk you were only a temporary helper who had become unstable. Because your name is the only authorization on the event file. We did not process that claim. Do you want the sponsor ledger released again? My father went still. That was the first real crack. Not embarrassment. Fear. Send it to me, I said. And send a copy to Margaret Reeves and Caleb Reeves. I authorized that. Dad stepped forward. Emma, don't you dare. You already told them a story about me, I said. Now they can see the paper version. Mrs. Klein added, also, the personal card Mr. Hart just presented for the recovery suite declined twice. We will not attempt another charge without new cardholder authorization. Even the nurse at the desk stopped typing. Dad stared at his phone and muttered. The bank froze it. The nurse spoke gently. Sir, the private family room requires payment before we can reserve it. The regular waiting area remains available. Dad looked at me then. Not like a father. Like a man watching a door he thought he owned close from the inside. Emma, he said. Softer now. This is for Lily. Margaret answered before I did. Russell, why did your daughter pay for a wedding she was not allowed to attend? He turned on her. This is family business. Caleb lifted his head. He was pale, bandaged, still wearing blood on his collar, but his voice cut through the room. No, it became my business when you told my parents Emma chose not to come because she was jealous of Lily. It became my business when you let me thank you at my reception for sacrifices you did not make. Monica reached for him. Caleb, you are injured. He pulled his arm away. My wife is in surgery, and I am finding out that the person who helped give her that wedding was removed at the church doors like a problem. I think I am involved. Dr. Patel stepped in with the calm authority my father could not perform his way around. Miss Hart, the doctor said. Lily's team needs your answer. Yours. Not your father's. If you agree, we will take you back now. I agree, I said immediately. The room seemed to breathe again, but I held up one hand before Dad could turn my consent into a victory. I will donate because Lily is my sister, and her life matters to me. But no one in this room will use my blood to clean up what you did at that wedding. Mercy is not permission to keep lying. Dad's face hardened. You always have to make yourself noble. So I unlocked my phone. I opened Hannah's photo first. The crossed-out seating chart filled the screen. Emma Hart, front row family. A black line through my name. Under it, in my father's handwriting, the lie. Not attending. I turned the phone around. Aunt Denise covered her mouth. Margaret looked at my father as if seeing a stranger wear a familiar suit. Caleb stared at the screen, and something in his face broke. That is not the whole story, Dad said. But his voice had already lost its handle on the room. I opened his text next. Don't embarrass us tomorrow. Stay away, and let Lily have peace. Then my phone chimed again. Mrs. Klein's email arrived. I opened the attachment and showed the sponsor page. Emma Hart, authorized financial sponsor. Russell Hart, family contact. Final approvals. Emma Hart only. 3 screens. 1 crossed-out name. 1 cruel command. 1 ledger showing who had carried the day. Nothing complicated. Nothing legalistic. Nothing a family could pretend not to understand. Monica tried anyway. Emma has always been sensitive. Russell was trying to protect Lily from conflict. Hannah stood from a corner chair I had not noticed. She still wore her silver bridesmaid dress under a hoodie. That's not what you said before the ceremony. You said, as long as Emma's card clears, she can cry at home. Monica went white. That was the moment the false family hierarchy broke. Not with shouting, not with a judge, with a hotel ledger, a crossed-out chair, a text message, and a bridesmaid in wrinkled satin repeating one ugly sentence in a hospital waiting room. My father looked smaller than he had 2 minutes earlier. The tuxedo pants made him look ridiculous now. Dressed for a celebration he had not actually been able to afford. He turned to Aunt Denise, but she would not meet his eyes. He turned to Margaret, and she said, do not ask this woman for anything else until you tell the truth. Dad swallowed. Emma. It was the first time all morning he had said my name like it belonged to a person. Dr. Patel placed the consent form on the counter. The paper was plain. No drama. No poetry. Just lines that required my signature, because my blood, like my money, like my time, like my presence, could not be taken by family vote. I signed. I will give Lily what she needs today, I said. After that, none of you will use my name, my card, my access, or my silence again. Dad's mouth trembled. For 1 second, I thought he might apologize with dignity. Instead, he whispered, "How can you do this to me right now?" I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because even in collapse, he could only find himself. The donation room was quiet compared to the waiting room. A nurse wrapped a cuff around my arm and asked if I felt lightheaded. I said no. Through the half-open blinds, I could see my family rearranging itself without me managing the furniture. Margaret sat beside Caleb with the sponsor ledger open on her phone. Hannah brought coffee to Aunt Denise. Monica stood alone near the vending machines, typing and deleting something on her phone. My father sat with his elbows on his knees, staring at his dead card as if it had betrayed him. The needle went in. I looked away, not out of fear, but because I wanted one moment that belonged only to my own choice. My blood moved through the clear tubing, dark red and steady. It did not ask who deserved it. It did not care who had crossed out my name. It simply went where I allowed it to go. When I came back to the waiting room with tape on my arm, the air had changed again. Lily was out of surgery. Critical, but stable. Dr. Patel explained it in plain words. The bleeding had been controlled. She would need monitoring. The donated blood would help replenish what she lost. She was alive. Dad began to cry then. Real tears, maybe. Or relief with an audience. I no longer trusted myself to sort one from the other. He stood when he saw me. "Emma, thank God." I moved past him to the nurse's desk and asked, "Is there anything else the hospital needs from me medically?" The nurse checked the chart. "Not at the moment. You should eat, rest, and avoid heavy lifting." "Thank you." Dad followed me toward the hallway. "Where are you going?" "Home. Your sister just came out of surgery." I stopped near the automatic doors. The whole waiting room watched again. But this time it did not feel like being cornered. It felt like standing in a doorway I could choose to walk through. "I gave what I could give," I said. "Now I need to rest." Monica's voice cracked from behind him. "Emma, don't make this colder than it has to be." I turned around. Cold was crossing my name off a chair after using my card. Cold was telling everyone I chose not to attend. Cold was calling me only when you needed my blood. I am not being cold. I am being done. No one corrected me. That was the sound I remembered later. Not applause. Not victory. The absence of correction. The collapse did not happen like lightning. It happened like lights turning on in rooms my father had kept dim for years. Before I reached the parking lot, Caleb asked the hospital to list him as Lily's primary family contact and to remove my father from speaking for decisions that belonged to Lily and her husband. It was not dramatic. It was a nurse updating a screen. But through the glass doors I saw my father's face when he realized the word father no longer meant authority. Margaret canceled the private family dinner in the joint family group chat. Given what we learned today, there will be no dinner. Emma Hart did not abandon Lily's wedding. She was barred from entering after financially carrying major parts of the event. Please do not repeat otherwise. Under it, Caleb added the sponsor ledger, the seating chart photo, and one sentence. I was misled. Emma deserves an apology, not blame. That was when the social collapse began. The relatives who had commented beautiful, so elegant, and so glad there was no drama started deleting their comments. Monica deleted her post about boundaries within 10 minutes. But Hannah had already screenshotted it and sent it to the bridesmaids group with the seating chart beside it. By evening, Monica was no longer the woman praying for family healing online. She was the woman who had said, as long as Emma's card clears, she can cry at home. The financial part was colder and clearer. The hotel refused every added charge. No recovery suite. No extended room block. No airport car. No catered family meal. The transportation company billed the canceled car to the person who had requested it, and my father had to give his own card over the phone while Monica stood beside him. The card failed again. Margaret paid for Caleb's discharge transport herself and made sure the receipt had no heart name on it. Dad called me 9 times that night. I did not answer. Then he texted, "Please unlock the account for 1 week. Lily needs comfort." I wrote back once, "Lily can have comfort. It will not come through my card." Then I blocked every shared account I had forgotten was still tied to him. The family phone plan moved to individual billing. Monica's streaming account stopped recognizing my email. The storage unit with Mom's furniture required my key and written approval. The church donation pledge my father had put under my contact information bounced back to him for his own signature. Small things, ordinary things, but together they revealed the shape of the truth. I had not been one favor. I had been the structure. On the 4th day, after Lily woke up, Dad called from a hallway at Mercy General. His voice sounded older, but I had learned that older was not the same as honest. "She wants to see you," he said. "Then she can call me when she's ready. Emma, please." "She's fragile." So was I at the church doors. He breathed into the phone. "I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting a boutonniere. A mistake is misreading a time on an invitation. Crossing out your daughter's name after spending her money is not a mistake." But I did not say that. I had already learned that some truths shrink when you argue them with people committed to surviving them. "You made a choice," I said. "Now you have to live inside it." "People are treating Monica like she planned it," he said. And there it was, the real emergency under the apology. "Margaret won't speak to us. Caleb barely looks at me. That is not my crisis to repair." 2 days earlier, an envelope had come to my apartment. No return address, but I knew my father's handwriting. Inside was a check for half the wedding costs. Not all. Half. With a note, "I am trying to make this right. Please call." I photographed the check, wrote returned, incomplete repayment across the memo copy, and mailed it back certified. The next envelope came by courier the following morning. This time it contained a cashier's check for the full amount, down to the transport deposit and the seamstress cash I had once hidden from myself because I was ashamed of how much I had given. There was no apology inside, only the receipt numbers Margaret must have forced him to face. I deposited it. Repayment was not reconciliation. It was only a receipt arriving late. Lily called that evening. Her voice was thin and bruised by medication. "Em?" I closed my eyes. For a second, she was 14 again, standing in the hallway after Mom's funeral. Her hair too neatly brushed because I had done it with shaking hands. "I'm here," I said. She started crying before she found words. "I knew Dad was going to ask you not to come. I thought he would do it gently. I told myself you'd understand later because you always do." That hurt more than denial would have. Not because it was crueler, but because it was honest. "I did understand," I said. "That's why it hurt." She cried harder. Caleb showed me the seating chart. Then the ledger. "I didn't know Dad told everyone you chose not to come. I didn't know Monica said that about your card. You knew I was being removed." Silence? "Yes," she whispered. I let the silence stay. She needed to hear herself inside it. "Thank you for donating," she said finally. "I don't know if I deserve it." "You don't earn blood like a reward," I said. "But you do earn access to people. That's different." She absorbed that. I could hear the machines near her bed, the soft beep and hush that make every sentence feel temporary. "Can I see you when I'm stronger?" "Maybe," I said. "Not as the sister who fixes everything. As the sister you tell the truth to." "Okay." It was a small word. Smaller than an apology, but cleaner than a promise. The next Sunday, I went to the donor center again. Not to donate because I had to wait, but to bring muffins for the nurses who had stayed late during the shortage. The same nurse from the wedding day saw the tape mark fading on my arm. "How's your sister?" she asked. "Alive," I said. "Learning. I hope." She nodded as if that was enough. Because in some places, people understand that healing is not the same as returning. When I got home, there was a voicemail from Dad. I did not play it right away. I changed out of my coat, watered the basil plant on my windowsill, and opened my laptop. The hotel receipt was still in my inbox. So was the photo of the crossed-out seating chart. So was the donor center appointment reminder from the afternoon I had been banned. For the first time, I moved them all into a folder named Closed. Not forgiven. Not forgotten. Closed. Then I opened a new document and made a list of every shared account, emergency contact, family plan, storage key, automatic payment, and family obligation where my name still served as the invisible foundation. By midnight, the list was shorter. By the end of the week, it was gone. No dramatic announcement followed. No speech at a dinner table. No final confrontation in a church lobby. The structure spoke quietly. Dad's phone plan asked for his own payment. Monica's subscriptions stopped working under my email. The storage unit with Mom's furniture required my key, and when Dad asked to drop by and pick up a few things, I gave him 3 scheduled times and a written inventory. He chose none of them. Lily sent one photo from her hospital bed 2 weeks later. It was not of her face. It was of the wedding program, folded open to the family acknowledgement page. My name was not printed there. Below the blank space, in blue hospital pen, she had written, Emma, who carried more than we admitted. I did not cry when I saw it. I saved the photo, then set the phone down and kept making dinner. Months earlier, that sentence would have felt like everything I wanted. Now it felt like a doorbell I did not have to answer immediately. The next time I saw my father was outside Mercy General, after Lily's follow-up appointment. He looked smaller in daylight. No tuxedo, no audience, no daughter to stand between him and the truth. He held a paper cup of coffee with both hands. Emma, he said. I stopped because I was not afraid of stopping anymore. He swallowed. I told people you saved her. No, I said. Caleb told people the truth. Margaret told people the truth. Hannah told people the truth. You only admitted what was already impossible to hide. He flinched, but he did not argue. That was new. Maybe it was growth. Maybe it was exhaustion. I no longer needed to name it. You shouldn't have needed an accident to say I was family, I said. Lily came out in a wheelchair pushed by Caleb. She looked pale, thinner, alive. When she saw me, she lifted one hand. Not a demand, not a performance, a question. I walked over and placed the small paper bag I had brought on her lap. Inside was the silver locket Mom had left me, the one Lily used to borrow before school dances. I had kept it for years because I was afraid anything precious would disappear if I let it leave my hands. This is yours to wear for yourself, I said. Not for pictures. Not for Dad. Her fingers closed around the bag. Thank you. Dad opened his mouth. Maybe to turn it into a moment. Maybe to claim the softness before it could exist without him. Caleb touched his sleeve and shook his head. Dad closed his mouth. That was enough for one day. I drove home with the windows cracked, the air cool against the tape scar that had almost faded from my arm. At my apartment, I found one last wedding favor in the side pocket of my purse. A tiny white box, crushed at one corner, with Lily and Caleb's names printed in gold. I had picked it up from the hotel weeks before because favors were one of the errands nobody remembered until they failed. Inside were 2 sugared almonds. I threw them away, rinsed the box, and set it on my desk to hold paper clips. Some things lose their meaning when you stop begging them to mean love. That night, my phone stayed silent. No demands. No emergency. No corrected story requiring my labor. I made tea, locked my door, and sat by the window while the city lights came on one by one. My father had banned me from my sister's wedding because he thought love meant access without respect. 2 days later, he begged for my blood because he discovered access was not the same as ownership. I gave my sister blood because I chose mercy. Then I took back everything else because I finally chose myself.